Hello and welcome to Room Escape Divas, your podcast on everything escape rooms. Look at us. We're like all live on a Zoom. Nobody, if you are listening to this audio-wise, you might not be able to see it, but we are all on a Zoom because it's much easier this way and everybody was able to join in. And we are super excited today because we have Kellian Adams on. Has that always been your last name? Oh my goodness.
It hasn't because the patriarchy. My name is actually Pletcher. I've been married for like 10 years, but Adams, it's like AD, which means that I'm always first on every list. So I've been saying like Adams Pletcher.
Okay. I was just about to say Pletcher because I actually knew your last name, and then I looked up at the Zoom and it just said Kellian Adams. I was like, no, maybe I'm wrong.
No, I've got a couple of them here. I'm just gonna say Carol Hemingway. There we go.
Now it's gonna really mess us up.
I know, right? She's the Aspmc board president. I'm just gonna fix that.
Oh, anyway, we will get into that. And my name is Errol.
I'm Amanda.
I'm Ruby.
And I'm not lagging, but it was funny to do that.
Woo! And we have, as I said before, I don't know what to call you, but we have Kellian, and she is part of Green Door Labs, who put out a Kickstarter, the American Society for the Protection of Magical Creatures, and it got funded, and then she pulled in all these wonderful people to work on it, and she released her first game not too long ago, and I thought it'd be great to have her on. And, it almost might sound like it's self-serving because I was also one of those designers there, but we won't talk about me too much. We're mostly going to talk about Kellian. Welcome, Kellian.
Sure. So, Errol, you told me to talk only about you, right? Is that what this email said?
No.
Talk about my design.
I think most people will know that I can happily talk about myself for hours.
That's usually what ends up happening.
Oh.
So, well, no,
it's
just Carol on your name.
And see what happens.
Anyways, it's great to have you on, Kellian. And how are you doing?
Good. I'm doing great now. I mean, as well as can be expected for the end of the world,
and you just launched Aspmc, and you must be pretty happy about that.
Oh man, it's so nice to have that game out.
So before we go any further, maybe we should tell people what it is. And it actually took me 2 months. So I've also been involved in the project, and I could never get this acronym right. And it took me 2 months to finally learn it. So
I had to really focus. I had to be like, I'm learning this now. But then when you get it, it kind of rolls off the tongue.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about the Aspmc.
Sure. So the ASPMC, as you may know, is the American Society for the Protection of Magical Creatures. And spoiler alert, I, happen to have a designer from Canada, and I also happen to have some other people that I'm talking to in Canada. So it's entirely possible that we may expand to the North American Society for the Protection of Magical Creatures, possibly. But and then it'll be the NASPMC.
That's a new acronym. No more.
Oh no! Add an extra letter. So this was something that I created back in 2017 with Lizzie Stark, who is head of Stark Interactive, and she's a LARPer and a writer. Actually, she's got two books out. And we built this production that we called Save the Munbacks. And I've got the Save the Munbacks stuff behind me. I just learned how to use my green screen for Zoom, so I was very excited about that. And it was like, it's just one of my all-time favorite things that I've ever built. Despite the fact that I have Club Drosselmeyer every year, Club Drosselmeyer is my baby. But still, the ASPMC possibly is the best game that I ever worked on, because it was just so beautiful. We worked at this mansion out in Milton, Massachusetts, and we took over this mansion and we filled it with the art of Hillary Scott. And you can kind of see Hillary Scott's art behind me. Right here, this is a fairy pump, and so you see the little head. It's like a noxious fairy pump.
Sorry, a fairy pump? It pumps out fairies?
No, that's how you catch fairies because
Oh, okay.
yeah, otherwise known as the Northern Scottish Goblin or Scottish
Ah.
Hobgoblin, and they just have filthy mouths. Let me tell you, like you don't want to hear those guys. Like the second they open their mouth, you're just like, oh, just cover your ears. And so they have to be caught and put in these small containment units. And this is how you catch them: is that you've got kind of a pump, and so you just kind of go up, and as they're swearing obscenities at you, you just kind of that's how you put them up. So yeah, so we had that. We had the containment unit in a different part. This is a Yeti head. Um, and yeah, we had, giant mechanical spiders and dragons and just all sorts of wonderful things, Mongolian death worms and, wonderful things hanging around this mansion. We did it all at night, of course. Worked with an antiques dealer. So we made it was all candlelight and low light from the late 1800s, all these old lamps that we found. We made everybody dress up like they were turn of the century wizards, so that was entertaining. And then we had to find out what was wrong with the northern crested Dimmoth mudbacks. And so it was this delightful puzzle hunt. We ran it for about 80 people at once. I would say actually load capacity was better at about 50, 55, but the problem with these immersive theater things is that you don't really know until you run it. So you had to talk to all of these different magic experts. You had to talk to somebody who is a specialist in potions and someone who is a specialist in spells. And they had these little workshops all around the room. And so we actually had physical puzzles as well. So there was one where we had, actually I've got them. Let me show you. They're so fun. Do I have, okay, we've removed the speakers from these guys, but like these little plants here, you can sort of see they're labeled on the back, but we put mobile speakers in them so they would whisper things at you, and you had to listen.
Oh, while you're walking around.
Yeah. So we had these plants that were whispering.
Oh, that's cool.
There was puzzle involved with that. We had mandrakes. Of course, you had to repot mandrakes. We made these screaming potatoes. Oh, that was great.
Oh, it's cute.
Yeah, that was hilarious. And then we did, you had to test the levels of flotsam and jetsam in the water. And so we actually had test tubes, and you had to figure out what was in the different test tubes by doing scientific experiments. And in the end, you had to figure out how to balance the ecology for the northern crested Dimmoth mudbacks so that we could save the mudbacks. So anyway, so that's what this all came out of. So when I knew that I wanted to build sort of a quick and dirty, something fast Kickstarter game, I wanted to house it in a world that I knew would encompass a lot of stuff. And actually, Sharang Biswas, who's one of the other writers, his idea, he was like, okay, I really want to write a wizard story. Can I put it in, such and such a world, like Magiscola? And I was like, would you mind if we put it in the Aspmc? Because that's a world that Lizzie and I already own. We know everything that happens in that world. It's already tongue-in-cheek. We have a lot of these creatures, and it expands nicely because it's an ecology, So so that's how we created the American Society for the Protection of Magical Creatures. We moved them forward 130 years, and now it was originally Henrietta Hemingway and Mina Phipps were working together to try and save the mudbacks, and now 120 years later, Carol Hemingway, which is Henrietta Hemingway's great niece, has taken over the head of the board. She's the board president, and they're kind of an ineffective nonprofit, but they're doing their best, and they really want to.
So they're a nonprofit.
Right, period. And it's especially funny to me because I work with museums, right? So I was explaining this to a museum friend, and he's like, this sounds like every nonprofit I know. And I was like, I know, right? So it's like, got the board and nobody knows how to do any of the technology. And so they're bringing on these interns, and, they keep breaking everything. And I just thought that was really entertaining. So so that is the American Society for the Protection of Magical Creatures. And we are moving into the daring, non-magical world of websites and that.
The funny thing is, I didn't realize there was so much history behind it. I thought you made that all up for the Kickstarter. And it's like,
Ah,
oh, this has
yeah.
been going on forever. Wow. Well, I
I
meant like at
know.
least from 2017, you said you started it, or
Yeah, 2017. Yeah, it was an idea that I had actually back in 2015, and I was just
Mm.
thinking, like, you know how it is. You guys build stuff, and usually it comes down to like, what world do I want to live in now? You
Yeah.
know? Right? And I was like, I really want a magical fairyland with lots of creatures, and so that's what we built.
And so you started the Kickstarter just at the very beginning of COVID, when we all started to isolate. Was it in response to that?
100%. Yeah. Like I really hit the ground running on that one. Yeah. And in fact, like I'm sort of a bull in a china shop when it comes to stuff like that. So I was like, okay, like, oh, things are happening. Hurry, we need to build a game. You know? Like, let's gonna do anything for the world, right? Like, oh God, hurry, there are people dying. We've got to build a game. But it's like, I don't know, like we do what we can with what we have, and it's like, and that's what I have in my pocket. I know how to build games. And I also like, so for me, it wasn't just like, I want to build a game, because I'm a designer as well, but it was more like, I want to find a way to try and get some quick and dirty funds for my freelancer friends who are freaking out right now, because it was before any of the like federal funding or unemployment had showed up. So like every freelancer friend of mine was like, oh, I can't pay rent. Yeah, so I just wanted something that was like as quick as I possibly could to get some money out to friends. Yeah, so that's why I did the ASPMC.
And it
Ended
got
up being,
funded, which was great.
yeah, and then some. It got funded, I think it was 670 times what I'd asked for. So I was
Oh
like,
wow.
okay,
Oh wow, that's great.
670%. Yeah, 670%, something like that. Yeah, I had asked for 2,500, and I pulled on 5 friends, and I was just going to give them $500 each. $500 cash, quick and dirty. Let's build a game. It'll be kind of crappy. Let's get it out the door. So that was a challenge, because instead we got $17,000, and I was like,
Let's get a bouncy castle.
I know. Hell do I do with that, right? So like that was definitely a challenge. Yeah,
This is
so
great because now you can make more games.
and that's exactly what I did. So what I ended up doing was I'd initially wanted to hire 5 people, and instead I ended up hiring 15. And the people who had sort of come on board with me at the very beginning with like a wing and a prayer, like no idea if this was going to get funded. So we split it 8 ways, so 5 for the initial 5. They ended up getting like $2,000 each or something, which was, like an actual fee for a game. And then the rest we split up between all of the other freelancers that I pulled on. Yeah, which was kind of like, okay, well, do you do a song? Will you design a puzzle? Will you do this? Will you do that? So it was a little bit, more what I had intended to be able to spend on everybody. Yeah, so that was interesting. So I thought I was going to be able to get sort of a crappy game out the door, not crappy, but quick and dirty out the door.
This is, a podcast. Everybody's gonna listen
I
to
know,
it.
I'm sorry. No, I didn't mean crappy. I never meant crappy. I just meant the fastest thing we could possibly get out the door, right?
Yes.
Like I wanted to do it as quick as we could. But I didn't feel like I could do that when people had given us so much, and like so many people given us so much. And I was like, oh, you guys didn't pay for quick and dirty. Yeah. So my 4-week game, my 6-week game ended up becoming like a 4-month game. It was really a battle to get it out the door, but we were able to release the first one this week. Second one will come out hopefully within the next 10 days, and the third one will come out within the next 14 days. And so we were able to get 3 games out the door, plus like the website and the archive. So yes, so that's what happened.
Yeah, and if anybody has
This is
been to the
very
website, it's theaspmc.org. Hopefully I got that right.
Yeah.
you did.
There's some
I don't
wonderful
know.
art in there.
You've been repeating it like
Yeah, but there's the
so
dot in front of it
often.
now.
There
The
is a
ASPM.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. Because like you've been like I'll ask Gerald what he's been up to, and then he'll be like, "Oh yeah, just some ASPMC," and I'm like, "How am I supposed to know what the hell that is?"
What?
But I haven't
Obviously,
changed
this
for the
is how I
last
get
2
depressed.
months.
So I'm like, I think you got the acronym down.
Now you know. You'll
Now
never
I do
forget.
know. Yeah. It was funny because when I was working with Kellian on this, she was worried that you were pushing me too much. That it's like, oh, can you get this out? And I was telling her, it's like, oh, you have no idea. This is, I've got like a month or two to put together 6 puzzles. This is like luxury. It was amazing
I
for
mean,
me.
it's amazing. Everybody has like really like such different work styles. And I think that's what I learned. So like, first of all, I learned that, COVID time is not normal production time, right? Like, I really think that like everybody, and like myself included, I was at like 65% Kelly. I feel like now I'm like inching up to like 75, 77% Kelly. Like just everybody not working at their normal capacity at all. Yeah. And so like, and with such a large team now, like 15 people, I'm used to working with like 3, so like learning everybody's different work styles. So I had, other people that were like, oh my God, I can never get that out in a month. What are you talking about? And Errol's like, I can do that in 10 minutes. And I'm like, wait, what? No, are you sure? So it's like
10 minutes.
not 10, no, but really like, it was really interesting, like learning just everybody's pace and trying to match it. And, it's like you work better with some people than you do with others. And it doesn't mean that their work is any better or worse. It just means that work styles match, in different ways.
Well, I think we had a good synergy. Don't want to use all these corporate words. It sounds like so fake. But it was
Did.
like when I worked, with Manpans, Mike, and Ruby. It was very fortunate because I didn't know the 2 people that came on. So for our game, there are multiple games, as Kellian said in the SBMC, and in our game, we had a writer, we had an artist, we had myself for the puzzle design, and then we had Kellian, who was our producer, and there was just the 4 of us. And it was a great team. The reason I could put out puzzles so quickly is because I didn't have to worry about art. I didn't have to worry about story. I didn't have to worry about getting beta testers. I was so happy.
And that's something that I think I learned too, right? Is that like, okay, 3 people and a producer, like there we go. Like that's the right size team for this kind of a project, like moves fast, like as long as everybody gets along together. It's like, I think that people are more accountable to each other when it's a nice small team like that. So yeah, I mean, talking about like building the plane as you fly it, right? But I think, future games for this project are just, going to be much easier because now we know. But the games that we got out the door are really nice. Like wait until you play the second game. Like the puzzles are really epic.
Oh,
They're
I know.
really good.
Ooh.
Because
It was great. No. I haven't. I haven't played it yet, and I do know I did. So I did contribute to the Kickstarter myself. So
that's great. So glad.
There you go.
Thank you for your support.
You're welcome. Because it was funny because as you said, you had your original team that you were going to ask, and so it's like, oh, this sounds cool. I'll support it, and so I supported it. And then as soon as it was funded, you emailed me, hey, you want to help design something? And I thought to myself, wait, Kelly, have you even played any of my stuff? Are you sure?
Of course I played your stuff. Come on.
I didn't know. I actually
There's
don't
the
know.
Cryptex Hunt.
Yeah, I know,
that's
but
fine.
I don't know who plays the Cryptex Hunt. And then I usually get people who are angry with me. So
Oh, please. No. And then you had those great puzzles for, what was it was like a movie, right? And you built a couple of the puzzles for that.
Oh, the
Oh,
solver. You
Solver.
played
Yeah.
the
Yes,
solver ones
Solver.
too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
we played the Solver. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that was a
wow.
fun one
You
too.
go.
I know, Frank.
So Just to go back for a sec, sorry. Just because Errol is
No,
very
please, because Kellian and I are just talking like we know
Yeah.
it, because we know what we're
Sorry,
talking about,
guys.
but our listeners
So,
might.
yeah,
So
so-
interrupt away, man pants.
righto. So Errol is entrenched in this process, but we should clarify. So this game that you have on the ASPMC website is an ARG, correct? That's what we're doing, or
So I was initially when we had advertised it, we didn't know what it was going to be, right? So we were like, hey, it's a Kickstarter for a game. So we called it an ARG puzzle hunt because like I wanted to get in this idea of storytelling, because like that's really important to me. Like, as you know, as you can tell by my Yeti head, like I really like world building. That's like my favorite part of everything. So if I built a puzzle hunt that didn't involve like really solid art and characters and world building, then I would just feel like it wasn't, it wasn't a Green Door product, but I didn't know how much of an ARG it was going to be, right? So like we kind of went into it and we're like, okay, so we're sort of a magical nonprofit. I wanted to use, especially for the other game, museum websites, right? So the other game like takes you out of the website a lot and into other museum websites. But it really ended up being much more of a puzzle hunt than an ARG, other than the fact that it is really like solidly couched in a world, and we always use the voice of this world. But somebody from ArtNet tweeted about it today, and he called it a mini-ARG. And I was like, oh, thank you. That's a really nice way to say it.
there
Like,
you go.
yeah, I mean, it's not I Love Bees, right? It's not like an epic, like thousands of players, Stranger Things kind of ARG. But it still lives in a world, So,
Right.
yeah, so you could call it like a mini-ARG or a narrative puzzle hunt.
Oh, fun. So what was the difference between this? Say, so you do big. We've interviewed you. Sorry, we've interviewed you before for Drosselmeyer, and so you do big immersive escape kind of theatrical events. What were some of the major differences between, say, organizing for that and organizing for something like this?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I think the biggest difference was the deadline, right? Was like when you're building for these physical environments, it's like do or die. Like the last game that I built with Lizzie last summer, Night Cafe, and I mean, literally, we were like spreading mulch in the like, oh, what a nightmare, but it worked, So like we're in this big warehouse and we're spreading mulch as people are lining up outside. Like our set isn't done while people are lining up outside. And we're like, we need to take tickets and get people in. And we're like, the set is literally not done. And we're like, places, like, doors are opening, guys, figure it out, and so
Right.
like
We know a little bit how that feels. Yes.
yeah, right. And it's like whatever we've got, we're running with that. That's what we're releasing. And so like to create this type of a project, I also do a lot of custom stuff for museums, and same stuff where it's like, they've been advertising it and, the deadline is the deadline, whatever we've got to run with it. This was a Kickstarter, and sort of my whole team sort of knew that it was a Kickstarter, and they were like, oh, but it could be better. Oh, let's push it off. Like people won't mind. And they didn't mind, but it was hard for me to get my brain around that, right?
Right.
I was like, has to be out in 2 weeks, and and so like I send like a sheepish email out to people, and it's really hilarious because like the email that I send out is like, oh, sorry, we've had an infestation of
Oh, that's cute.
wasps, and everybody's like, oh, okay. And I'm like,
yeah, meanwhile, I've gotten like 3 Kickstarter emails from video games that I backed. They're basically saying like, yeah, we really underestimated how much time we needed for this, so it's gonna come out in another 2 years or so.
2 years.
Yeah.
and I
Whoa.
think that's the thing with Kickstarters is like the bar for delivery is so low. Like the fact that So the fact that I predicted a 2-month production cycle and we got it out in 4 months, like for me personally, was devastating. But for Kickstarter people, they were like, "Oh, cool!" You know, like
Right.
it was only twice as long as I thought it was going to take. So that was a big difference. Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
But
So I was
But now-
wondering, is this like your first Kickstarter project you've ever done?
it's kind of my second Kickstarter project that I've ever done. Back in 2016, at the very first Club Drosselmeyer, when we had no idea what we were doing, you know, like now we still have no idea what we're doing, but we've done it before, you know, like back then we were just like, here we go. Yeah, and you know, the thing about these types of productions, and you guys understand as well, you know, is that like when you're doing these big theatrical productions, the overhead is just boggling, right? It's like, okay, hey guys, I'm gonna do this production, and I don't know if it's gonna work. I've never done anything like this before. Overhead, $20,000,
Yeah.
like all coming out of my pocket. Hope it works. You know, like, yeah, I'm not independently wealthy, so that was a little bit nerve-wracking. So I did like sort of a little bit of a Kickstarter for the very first Drosselmeyer. And we made, you know, I think we made $2,500, which was just enough for us to break even. So yeah, so we survived. We survived the first year of Dross.
We were
That's
very
great.
fortunate in our first events. One, because we didn't have as many actors as you did, because we weren't as. Wow, you had an insane amount of actors. And two,
I
we had
know,
like
ridiculous.
4 lawyers, so that was amazing.
What?
Lawyers have money.
Well, no, not so much that they have money.
No, I'm
They,
joking.
they,
I'm
they
joking.
didn't they didn't really they weren't, you know, they didn't like, you know, we didn't like milk them for all the money they have.
No,
But
no.
they brought with them
Right.
the law expertise that we all had to worry about, like when you go and, oh, we need to rent a building, we need to get insurance, we
Yeah,
need this,
and
we need...
our waiver was ironclad. We were sure of that.
Oh, I bet it was. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, like it really, I don't know. It's like it's a benefit and a drawback. Like you know, I'm an avid swing dancer, and we sort of had like a rotating cast of characters in our swing dance scene. And at one point, we just ended up with a lot of lawyers, and our dances just got very complicated. You know, like, suddenly we have all of these waivers, and it's like, you know, like they have board meetings and they just take hours and hours. And it's like, oh, I don't know if this is kind of overkill, maybe. Yeah, we've had.
So you had 2 artists do all
Delightful.
the art, or who, or did you have a...
Wasn't that crazy? Yeah, we had 2 wonderful, overworked artists.
Yeah. How many creatures did they draw? There seems to be so many of them.
There's so many of them. And again, this was me being dumb with our Kickstarter because like, yeah, so initially I was, you know, again, I was thinking that we were only going to have a couple of people. So I was like, hey guys, if you give us a lot of money, if you give us like $150, it's a lot of money. Give us a description and we'll create a creature for you. You know, and I was thinking we'd have like 3 or 4 of these at the very most, and so I didn't cap it. We got 18.
Oh wow! Is that why there's so
I-
many creatures?
18, 18. I know, and like literally, like so we got all of them in. I think we've got 16 out, and we're waiting on 2. And I just got an email from my artist today, and she's like, "I'm tired and I'm going on vacation. Can you please give these last 2 creatures to someone else?" And I was like, "Yes, good on you. Thank you for creating like so much art." Yeah, so gosh, so poor Emily, and she was so good natured through the whole thing, and just like, oh, it's such high quality. Like every creature that came out was just absolutely beautiful. And Annie Chong was the other artist, and they created some of the creatures, and they'll probably end up creating the rest. Sorry, Annie. You know, but they did all the site design, you know, so like all the stuff with sort of like the magical books and the backgrounds, and you know, they did a lot of the puzzle, the visuals for the second game as well. Yeah, so yeah, my artists were just epic, really, really talented people.
Ooh,
Oh, some of them
sorry,
have a bird.
Errol inhaled and then
You know,
got in.
I'm scared to ask questions because you know that will just derail into me and Kelly
Why?
talking again.
What?
So
No,
we're
that's
I
fine.
know, I'm a talker. Sorry,
no,
guys.
I'm a talker too, but we're
I
gonna
know,
talk
the two of
like
us.
everybody else already knows what we're talking about. So I'm trying to
That's
stop
That's okay.
from
No,
doing
no.
that.
I will interrupt you as the dummy in the audience who's like, like, what's the magical creature or something like that. So if I feel that not enough is being explained, me or Mike or Ruby will definitely interrupt you. Yeah.
excellent. Well, so one thing that's super interesting, Ruby, you asked me if I'd ever done the Kickstarter before, and I was like, nah, kind of, right? Like we made a little bit of money for Dross back in 2000, I think it was 2015 actually that we've done that. And then we did the ASPMC. But what I'm seeing right now is that like my Kickstarter did way better than I ever expected. And then there's a lot of other Kickstarters with similar content, right? So like narrative puzzle hunts that are also doing really well. So I just think that Kickstarter might be a really good place for our kind of content right now. People that are really hungry for that kind of content, they're just hanging out on Kickstarter. They just see it there a lot.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I
Well,
think I'm actually
yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, so I'm designing for Club Drosselmeyer. So the ASPMC is out the door and Club Drosselmeyer is in. So, and I think I'm actually going to run Club Drosselmeyer because I've got to pre-fund it now. Because previously, you build the whole thing and then you sell all the tickets and then you sort of, pay for everything. But I won't be able to do that this year. I've got to, set up all the recording ahead of time. So I think I'm going to try and kickstart that one and see if people are willing to support us to build it.
So is this going to be still the in real life version? So, or no?
No.
Oh,
Oh
interesting.
no. Oh no. Oh no. No, no, no,
Oh,
no.
so this is going to be an online Club Drosselmeyer or something like that?
No.
No.
It is not going to be online either.
Oh,
This is
wow.
going to
No,
be.
oh, is it
Are you
secret?
intrigued?
Yeah, I
Are you
am. What are you going to
intrigued?
do?
All right, all right. Well, I will tell you then. I will tell you. I was keeping a little on the DL, but now that ASPMC is out, like I'm ready to start talking a little better. Yeah, so I am in the process. I'm working with a couple of different people to create Club Drosselmeyer, a 1943 first ever live radio broadcast.
Oh,
Oh,
fun. Ooh.
Yeah. So we're gonna do. So we're working with our musicians to record our album.
Wow, that's
So
nice.
we're going to have. I believe we'll have like recorded music, but we'll have live actors. And so we will run the whole show live so that people can tune in. And we think that there's going to be sort of a trifecta of how people will interact with us. So we are really interested, of course, in having some objects, either mailing people objects or having objects that can be downloaded. And we also think, Drosselmeyer Industries has like a really solid call center.
I was
like
gonna
us.
say,
Yeah.
are we gonna get to call into the show?
Of course you are. Of course you are. So you're going to be calling Drosselmeyer Industries, you'll get like the operator, like in this nasal or something, like Drosselmeyer Industries, how may I direct your call?
Yeah.
So we're really excited about playing with like what can be done with audio, both like in, radio recording phones, recorded phones, like what can you do with a telephone? And that sort of, fits into that 1943 technology. Actually, 43 fits really well because there were a lot of things there that sort of link in. Like I wasn't planning on going on to 43. I was planning on going back to that 39. It was a set of 4 years. But 1943 was kind of a slog. Both Canada and the U.S. had been in this war for a couple of years, and it wasn't clear when it was going to end or if it was going to end. It really hadn't been turning. There was no word about when D-Day was coming in, and both countries had lots of air raid drills. But this was like a really common thing, mostly on the coasts. It didn't happen in the center very much. But both on east and west coasts, it was like, okay, air raid drill, everybody in, shut off all of your lights, be quiet, tune into your radio for the next 2 hours, and if you're lucky, you won't get bombed. That was sort of a reality of people in 1943. but it was also there was also I'm not sure how it worked in Canada, but in the United States they had the Civil Air Defense, which was how communities were sort of rallying in defense. And it was ironic because, like, as it turned out, there really was no huge threat the way that the Japanese didn't have the capability to get to the US again. And the Germans were actually planning, if they could do it, they were coming through Mexico. So they would have come through like Arizona, which is, nobody was paying attention to that. And so like all the stuff that was happening in like LA and New York at the time was more for morale, right? And so everybody, like, they had their roles of like how they were doing civil air defense. And so you had your air raid wardens, and then you had your air raid dispatchers, and then you had your fire watchers, and then you had people who were trained in driving, and you were mechanics. And it really reminds me a lot of what people locally are doing with mutual aid societies right now. Where everybody's sort of pulling together, and it's like, does it really make a difference if you go out shopping and deliver a meal for this person? I'm not sure, but it makes people feel like they are pitching in together to do something. Yeah, so I kind of liked the echoes between the 2 years.
Wow, so
Neat.
that's really cool. And
Thanks.
and you're gonna put a Kickstarter together now that you have all this experience. Wow, you're a busy person, aren't you?
I do my best. I do my best. Well, I'm not going out and dancing, I'll tell you that much. So I've had something to do when the sun goes down. Yeah.
So ASPMC, it's almost like you have, like, because you said there are 3 games involved in it. So it's almost like you have an escape room in a way, just all online, and have different rooms within that facility. And that, how was it? You kind of touched on it earlier, working with the different designers, but as far as the style of games, are they stylistically very different, or?
Totally different.
Okay.
Totally different. And I love that. I love that. Like that, I'm excited about that. And I want to
Okay.
see more of that.
When you say,
know?
like, I love that, that sounds like an unexpected, like, oh, they're different. As opposed
Yeah,
to-
yeah. It was really unexpected, And I think just because I'd never done it before, right? Like
Yeah.
and typically I design my own work, and so I'm not used to bringing in all of these other designers. And it just never occurred to me that, like, as I bring in other designers, that I would see 3 games that were so, like, completely different from each other, but that still fit perfectly into the world. Like all of them like are absolutely at home in this world of magical creatures. So yeah, so it's kind of fun to see how everybody's interpreting stuff.
Yeah, no, it is. As I said before, it was really great working with Karen and Dawood as we did and it just went really smoothly. I was wondering, it's
Yeah.
like, are we both puzzle designers? Because I wasn't too sure at the beginning. I wasn't really too sure
Yeah.
how it was all working at the beginnings. Can you help us? And I just said, sure. But I didn't
Yeah.
get any details.
Excellent. I love it. What are we doing? I don't know. We're building a house. It's gonna be great. We're carrying lumber. Come on
And
over.
so, and you mentioned before that Dawood also created some puzzles and stuff. So, is he helping out with puzzles too? And he's like, and in the end, he's just like, no, I'm good with what I'm doing. You go for it. It's like, oh, okay, that's good too. But then he was still able. It was great to hear everybody's feedback, and then we could easily work that into the puzzle. It was nice. He was very open. It's like, oh, Dawood, can you change things? And Manda knows this. Where I said, can you change this to match the puzzle? And then he would. So it was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, he's really a dream to work with. Karen too, just like so easygoing, and like, obviously, like we work in an industry where it's not like people are divas. Oh, but they're really not, like in general, I don't think I've ever had a really bad experience working with anybody in the puzzle world, like none of us are doing this for the money, right? Like we're doing this because we love it, we're not, none of us are going to be famous for this.
And we take pride in we want to put out something good. So
yeah, exactly.
it's like yeah. So it was great working with all of you. And And I was still, again, just happy that it went very smoothly. Because Dawood put in like an insane amount of work. Dawood went like
I
wild.
know. Yeah, he really did. He really did. Yeah, I ended up having to pull extra budget for all of the extra hours that he was putting in too.
Yeah.
You know, like
He was
it's an
building the
interesting thing to balance.
website. He
Yeah,
drew some animals for us. He did some
yeah.
programming, and then he did almost all the videos.
Yep, yep. Oh my God. Yeah, what an overachiever, man.
Yeah.
But
So there's a lot
yeah,
of
but we got
video
a great
footage
game out of it.
in our game.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, I
it's
don't know
really
what
fun.
the
We
other
got
game is like. I don't know what the other game is like, so I have to try
well,
it.
so for this first game, like for the ship, Modus Markings game, we have 5 actors, I think, and for
I
the
don't really count as an actor.
you
Just
do, you totally count as an actor.
You
Yeah, like
count as an actor. I've
you
worked
should
with
have
you like
yeah,
seen.
three
You should have
shows.
seen me there.
it's great. You have blue hair and a chicken. I mean,
Yeah, it
come
was
on.
great. That's
Errol didn't end up using. Yeah, Errol didn't end up using this, but like one day I walked out into the backyard because I live in Errol's basement, and I'm like going to do my laundry, and Errol's just sitting there looking crazy-eyed at a camera, uh, like
Holding a
reciting
chicken?
lines. No, he didn't have the chicken at that point, but he was like, and I was like, should I come back?
actually
I'll
I
come
did
back.
use that take. What I didn't
Okay.
use were all the takes of me with chickens.
You didn't use the chicken takes.
No, I didn't use it because
We
I
did use it for photographs, though.
just for the photographs, but I do have some footage of me with chickens that we didn't use.
Great. It's great. Yeah, we used 5 actors. For the first one, we used more musicians. We had 2 musicians for the other one, which was kind of fun. So just 1 actor for the other one, and then we had the 2 different musicians. We commissioned a specific song, which was really fun. Somebody wrote a song for us for the second game.
Oh, nice.
That was exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very, and then the third one, I think, are you allowed to say because it's more of a scavenger hunt, or
I am allowed to say,
okay.
yeah. I mean, so the third one was a little bit more of a location-based game, and I designed that one because everybody was having so much fun. I wanted to. It's like, you guys are having so much fun. I want to play. So I pulled on a couple of other friends, and I was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Yeah. So the third one is a location-based game, and we are tracking the urban porter mink. Yeah. So the urban porter mink is a magical creature. Which has been gone for an awfully long time. It has not been, seen in urban areas. But what with COVID and the changing ecosystem, there have been reported sightings of these urban porter minks. So we're going to try and figure out where they are. We're going to try and document them. And here I can sort of show you what the lair of an urban porter mink looks like. It's a
Look
little.
at all these spoilers. We got Drosselmeyer.
No, you guys. I know you guys get spoilers. Okay, are you ready? It'll just be a visual.
Oh, cute.
See it.
Oh.
So
It's a green door.
yeah.
Oh, so that's gonna be. Oh, got it.
So yeah. Anybody who's listening to this in New England, don't listen. It's, it'll be. I think it'll be a really fun game for. I think it'll be a really fun game for people with kids. Because it's something that you can sort of do outside, and so like as you go into, you can kind of see it better. And so like these little
Fun.
things that like sort of go behind the doors, and like I think it's going to be really fun. Yeah. So again, so different than the other games, right? The other games are like, and so we've had a lot of fun, and I worked with a friend who's also a fabricator. We've been like building out all this crazy stuff that we're hiding in places. So I think
that sounds cool. Yeah, and also our artist, Karen, so she's a street art installation kind of person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she was also outside just drawing on and
It's
finding
great.
pictures, drawing on the sidewalk, doing different things. It's funny you're mentioning, I was mentioning before that I didn't really know what was happening. I also didn't really know who the audience was. And so Kellyanne had to rein me in for level of difficulty.
No!
Honestly,
Say it ain't
no.
so.
It
You're
was
usually
great
such a
though.
you're a judge of that.
It worked though. It worked. And that's one thing is that like I feel like, you know, the puzzles that you build, I mean, gosh, somebody tweeted about it today and they were like, wow, these puzzles are so accessible. So there you go. There you go,
Yeah.
Amanda. Like somebody, total stranger, unprompted, specifically said Errol's puzzles are delightful and accessible.
Well, it's like when I watch my favorite, like if I watch my favorite filmmakers or favorite TV, like there's a TV showrunner out there, where I realize when he's left on his own or when they're left on their own, they go wild and crazy, and it's like you realize all the stuff that you liked is when they had a partner who kind of just like pulled them back a little bit and said like,
Oh,
True.
okay, yeah,
wow.
that's neat.
It's true. I literally like I have sent emails in this process in which I say, dear team, my name is Kellian, killer of dreams, destroyer of visions.
You are
Watch as
the producer.
I am the producer. Watch as I kill your darlings.
Yeah.
You know, and they were like, "Oh, ha ha ha!" And I was like, "Just," yeah, you know, like, because things just
Like,
expand.
I'd like to
you know,
create a rainbow sign. The money can pay for a plank of wood on a cinder block,
know.
right?
How much can you do with a cinder block? Like, let's get creative. Yeah. Yeah, so that was definitely, you know, so it's like it's hard sometimes to be the killer of dreams.
It
Um,
is.
Oh, yeah, poor
Um,
Kellyanne. I mean, because we worked on the meta first. That's what you have to do.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then I showed Kellyanne the meta, and she was like, "What? What are you
It was
doing?"
hard. It was hard. It was, yeah, I was like, but yeah, I mean he hacked and sliced and tied that sucker up and like, and I think it's very accessible now.
Oh,
Like,
I
and
think
we've
it
had a
gets a
lot.
little bit hard still.
It's hard, but we've had a lot of testers. And also the other thing that was really good about the game that you guys built was I thought the hinting system was really nice. The hinting system for the second one is also very nice, you know, but it's like you guys just had a lot of steps of hints. I forget what it was, but I was doing something with my husband. We were going through a puzzle thing, and we realized how much we lean on hints and how much we really like hints, and how that doesn't bother us at all. And how like doing the game without hints is so much less fun for us because then we're just standing around being like, I'm stuck, I can't do anything. Yeah, you know, and it's like that's no fun. Like I just want to know what the story is.
Well, what I like about the multi-level hints that I saw in Tales of War, and I see it on sites like there's a website called UHS Hints for like old adventure games, and it's
Oh,
great
nice.
because sometimes you need like just a nudge. You just need a tiny
Yeah.
little nudge. You don't need
Right.
like multiple steps laid out for you. I'm just like
Yeah, don't tell me the answer, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So
Tales of War is a great example, right? Of like
Yeah.
just a really good
Great
hinting
example,
system,
yes.
you know? It
Yeah.
just, you know, it scales really nicely, you know, and we weren't sure, we weren't 100% sure who our audience was. That was really interesting, you know, for Club Drosselmeyer, I have a much better handle on who's going. And for this, gosh, some of the people that like showed up were like really exciting, right? Like we got somebody whose address was just like exploding kittens.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and we were like, what? Like, how are you connected to exploding kittens? And how the heck do you know about us? But like, so we sort of did the numbers and again, like my community here in Boston, I really, you know, I lean on them for when I release stuff. And yeah, so we printed the thing out and I, you know, out of, you know, 330 people, I think maybe only 15% of them were friends or even people that I knew tangentially. And so I reached out to the rest of the team and I was like, guys, do you know these guys? And I put them on a spreadsheet and I was like, please mark the people you know, because I want to know who these guys are. And even when the rest of my team marked everybody off, it was still maybe only 20% people we knew. I was like, where are these people coming from? Like, how did you find out? Yeah, I don't. I don't have the answer to that, and so I've got people who are emailing me from the West Coast and from the Midwest and from England and France, and I'm like, well, this is really exciting. I have no idea how you found us. Yeah, so
Cool.
that's the
Very
benefit
cool.
of Kickstarter, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just noticed now that Mike and I have similar kind of t-shirts.
How?
Well, he
No,
has
look.
a peace sign, and oh wait, no, I'm not wearing that t-shirt now. Okay, forget it. Sorry.
I was like, like those
Yeah,
are
we're
entirely
like-
different.
On.
Yeah, no,
see
I'm
it.
like, because I wore it this morning, and then I worked out, and then I changed, and I forgot I changed. So
Oh, you had this shirt, right?
Yes, I had the love shirt, and so I thought, I'm matching with Mike, and now I just realized I'm not, and it's the same color, and I can't see it because I just see my little thumbnail.
Oh, it's funny. You were like adamantly holding up your shirt, like, look at it. Like,
Mike, you're wearing a shirt, and I'm wearing a shirt too, Mike. We're both clothed.
Arrow
Well, if any-
designed all the puzzles.
I was wondering where that one was going.
I'm like, is Totoro like peace? Is that where we're going with this?
Well, if
Both
anyone's-
t-shirts.
Anyone's
Oh, wait,
doing the Room Escape
he's-
Divas bingo for derailing, Errol just derailed the podcast. So there you go. Take a drink.
Yeah,
Ah, there we go.
yeah.
Only one drink.
Yeah, but I think the MVP probably would be Daoud because he set
Yeah,
up.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm not lying either.
You was really
He
good.
set everything up and then just
I
did
know.
tons of work. It's just like,
I know, and he could just do everything. Well, it's like it really made me think about how useful it is to know how to program at all, right? Like just to have like even like a little bit of programming background. And Daoud was like, and Daoud he's an opera singer, like so his background is he's an so he's an opera
no.
singer, and is that bad?
Oh, you just said the match. Arrow's already writing the song in his head that I would now sing.
Oh no, Daoud would. We should ask
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
And that's how he and his wife met, was that they were both in music school together. So he's a public historian and an opera singer and an actor, and he just so happened to learn how to code this year, and he's like, I think I can figure this out. So it's one of those things where it's like, pandemic time, so people have a little more time, and they're like, I think now I'm going to learn how to code. He coded the entire thing. It was amazing. Yeah.
I have a question for both of you, actually. So Errol mentioned, like, at the beginning of this, when Kellian was talking about her history with the world that she built, you mentioned, like, it was like as far back as 2015 when you even just started thinking about this, building it. So it's been over the course of like 4 or 5 years that this world has come into being. And Errol was not completely unaware of this fact, but completely unaware of the depth or the length of time.
You can say that I'm completely unaware of many things. It's okay.
Okay, but my question is, so for Errol and Kelly, I guess, so what was it like, because you basically got the tip of the iceberg of the world, so what was it like designing within that framework? Like, how much did Kellian give you? And Kellian, how much did you, like, whenever you saw the puzzles, how much feedback did you have to give so that you could make sure it still fit in your world as well, given that you're the one that knows it best? And
Well, for me, it's actually very simple because Daoud wrote the story. He was in charge of the narrative. He was in charge of any world building, all the characters. He basically, like, when I needed to write out something that a character would say, I would just do a rough draft and says, okay, I want them to say something like this, but these are the important parts. And then he would make it into the character that would say it, right? So it was actually quite simple for me because he wrote out the story as well first, and I just followed that. So I think it's mostly between Kellian and Daoud to figure out what fit within the Aspmc world.
Well, it was pretty handy because, as it turned out, Daoud was one of the actors. He played Mr. Emerson Bradley in 2017, so he knew the world really well.
Well,
Nice.
there you
So,
go.
he was,
Yeah.
all right, question answered. Immersed right
Very
into it.
easy. Yeah. So I did not have to do much at all, because Dowd already knew the constraints. But the second game as well, the writer is Sharon Biswas, and he is doing a great job, despite the fact that he didn't see the original show. But he's really been able to keep everything nicely within the world. And I, have really never even had to go in and be like, oh, that doesn't fit. Sometimes does things that I'm surprised about, like one of the characters, he's like, oh, I was a researcher in 1975. And I was like, 1975? And then I was like, oh, all right, why not? And so it's nice to work with people who are, thinking differently than you are. Because, of course, why shouldn't there be a researcher in 1975? That's not a big deal. So
Is that a long time ago for you? Is that why that's
no one was alive
No.
back then.
No, God, no. Other way around. No, because I really love building these visual worlds. And to me, the 70s is just sort of like the black pit of visual design. I just can't do
Don't you like the
anything with
color
the
orange and
70s.
brown?
Oh, it's hideous. It's hideous. And so I really avoid the 70s.
What about wood paneling?
Oh God. Oh, it's so bad, right? I mean, it's so awful. And it's like, I don't understand it. Like when you look at any of the filming that they did at that time, and you're like, okay, like 30 years before, they had these silver screen, like black and white, really high resolution movies. So why am I looking at something orange where I'm focusing so seriously on the wrinkles in your young face? I don't understand it. Like, how did the quality get so bad? Why was that a thing? Anyways, I'm sorry. I digress. Other people can also take a drink if they want to know, like, how to derail a podcast. Anyways, 70s. I don't typically like to build things in the 70s, which is why when Sharon mentioned that that's when this other researcher came from, I was like, But in fact,
was it because you got an image of him in like an
Bell
orange
bottoms?
shirt and bell bottoms?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a brown shirt,
Scraggly
low
hair.
cut, really wide lapel, and
Horrible
just
mustache.
greasy, overexposed film, and but that's not at all what happens. So
There you go.
great. Yeah. So, but you know how it is. It's like, you have so many prejudices as a producer that it's like, what? We can't possibly do that. And the prejudices that you have are so silly, right? For me, it's like literally the 70s. Like that's one of my main prejudices. Like, no, never designing anything for that era. Yeah. But,
Next challenge.
Oh my God. Yeah. When other writers come in, then they kind of, push you one way or the other. But you know how it is. It's like I said, you build things in the world that you want to live in. You try and
and you don't want to live in the
see.
70s.
I don't want to live in the 70s. I refuse. That's just so sad. Anyways, sorry to take you guys into that dark pathway of my brain.
So back to ASPMC and the non-70s look about it.
Back to the ASPMC. Yeah.
After you've done this process and everything, is there anything you'd do different next time when building your next mini-ARG or narrative puzzle hunt at all?
I think I know now to keep the team small. So that was really an important lesson for me. One of my teams was 6, and then one of my teams was 3, and then the other one was 3. And I would say that the 3 person teams just so much easier, I think, for everybody, right? It just it was just easier for everybody. Like my purpose was to be able to raise money, to give money to everybody to build something nice. And so I was purposely expanding that, but I didn't expand it in the right way. I should have expanded it by building another game, and then hiring on 3 more people for that third game rather than padding one of the games with so many people. That was hard for everybody, I think. But I mean, in general, like the teams were so wonderful. Like we had such a great group of people. Like they were so delightful. And I mean, and I would also say, I put people to work at just the worst time in the world. You know, it was like, hey guys, it's the beginning of the end of time. Let's get to work. You know?
Some may say that, you know, the more worse time than that may be the 70s, but, you know, some.
Maybe.
Yeah, so you have a choice. 2020 amongst COVID, amongst Trump, amongst everything, or the 70s.
Oh God. That is a really difficult choice. That is a really difficult choice. I mean, everybody did a really great job, you know, like and of course, you know, most of my team was, well, no, I would say, so the first team that I worked with, where we decided we were going to do this, we started right out of the gate, right at COVID. 2 of the team was in New York City, right? 3 were in Boston. And 1 was in San Francisco, right? So it's like we've got 2 in like hardcore lockdown in the middle of New York City in March, right? And it's like, oh my God, like anybody who survived that has gone through a war, you know? And then 3 of the team were in Boston, who was faring not as badly as New York, but pretty bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like the fact that like that first team was sort of able to like function and build something so beautiful in such a bad time is just such a testament to their willpower in general. And by the time I got to the second game, which was Errol and Daoud, things had eased off just a little bit, you know, at least in New England, you know, and there was this sense of like, okay, there's unemployment, you know, like there's health insurance, like, you know, we had a better sense of like what the disease was and what it was going to do. So it's, you know, it's less terrifying now than it was in March.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at the time. We're at about an hour, so we should probably wrap it up because people have bedtimes. And like
Bedtime?
Ruby,
Are you
Ruby
going to bed, man pants?
no, but Ruby has to rest.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your ARG. One
Yes.
thing, I guess a final question I'll have is if you have any advice for people who would like to make their own ARG type things, what advice would you give them? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my advice is ship the damn game. That's my advice. Just ship it. Send that sucker out there. You know, because the difference between a dreamer and a novelist is one game, right? You know, it's one book, right? That's the difference between somebody who talks about the novel and somebody who's a novelist. You know, just get the game out there, even if it's not perfect.
There you go. Thank you so much. And if people want to find it, Errol, do you want to repeat that?
Oh, it's the THE. Remember to put that in front of it because I always forget. And then I put in ASBMC and then I get some unsafe site. So
we will never know what the website is.
ASBMC.org. Did I freeze on everybody?
You did.
Oh, I did
yeah.
freeze. I'm sorry. Yeah, I did. Okay, yeah, because I got excited if you remember how my mic works. Anyways, as I was saying before, you need a because if you actually just put an ASMPSC, then it just will not work. So you have to put the ASMPC.org.
I think you said, is that right?
It's the ASPMC.
Did I?
You said ASMPC.
Oh, did I really? I messed it up.
You did.
Everybody's confused.
You know what?
Now.
On the description,
no.
I'll just put a
now
link.
we gotta change the website. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
ASMPC. Oh, you're right. I did.
Exactly. Going back to GoDaddy. You gotta buy a new URL.
Yeah, you probably should have bought all the different combinations of those letters.
Every
just redirect it.
variation. DPMSAYMCA. Yeah.
The important thing, there's a the in front of it.
Right. I stole that from nonprofits. You know, I was trying to figure out like what a lot of the, you know, because I work with a lot of museums, and so like Old North Church, we just built a game with them, and Old North is some other, like Old North Church is some other non-historic site in Tennessee, and so they did the Old North. And like trustees of the reservation, trustees is something else, and they did the trustees, and I was like, all right, that's it, we are the ASPNC. So
Same thing with the Codex.
Oh, I know. I screw that up.
oh
I go to codex.ca, I get some weird IT thing going on. Yeah, no.
Put the in front of it.
The
Yeah.
Codex.
Codex.
Yeah.
.ca. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Room Escape Divas is brought to you by Inverse Genius. You can go to inversegenius.com to find other fun podcasts just like this one. You can also email us at roomescapedivas@gmail.com. Ruby's holding up something.
Ice cream.
Oh, it's cute. Oh, that's cute. And you can go to Facebook and click the like button on the Room Escape Divas Facebook page. And if you are using Twitter, you can use the hashtag REDivas. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.